On March 17, 2026, a fire ignited outside the boundary of the Olmeca oil refinery in Dobicas, Mexico. The facility is operated by Mexico State Oil Company. According to the operator, heavy rainfall caused water-containing hydrocarbon residue to overflow the refinery's containment area. That oily water subsequently ignited. Hydrocarbons suspended in water retain combustibility. When containment thresholds are exceeded and sufficient volume reaches an ignition-capable environment, fire risk increases materially. 5 fatalities resulted from the incident. The specific ignition source had not been officially determined at the time this account was recorded. The cause remains under active investigation. No further details have been confirmed in the available record. So this man was apparently up over $600,000 on an arcade-style gambling machine when the whole thing glitched and wiped it out completely. According to the man himself, he blacked out from the frustration and anger of it. He described going from the greatest high of his life straight into a devastating low. His words. And here's the part that makes it worse. That reaction you're seeing, that's after casino management had already told him he wouldn't be paid. When a machine malfunctions mid-session, casinos typically classify the outcome as a technical error rather than a valid win, which generally means no payout, regardless of what the screen was showing. He walked away with nothing. How would you react? In Polina, Guatemala, a truck experienced brake failure and subsequently collided with other vehicles. The crash involved 7 vehicles in total. 4 people were killed and 4 were injured. Brake failure in a heavy vehicle removes the operator's primary means of speed control, increasing the possibility of multi-vehicle impact in traffic. On December 21, 2023, a woman identified as Alicia began hearing loud, forceful impacts striking her window late at night. The sounds were aggressive and repeated, consistent with significant force being applied to the glass from outside. Alarmed by what she was hearing, she began recording before she had any visual confirmation what was producing the noise. The footage she captured shows a man repeatedly slamming his head into the window with sustained force. The impacts continued in a pattern with no interval suggesting hesitation or awareness of injury. When Alicia pulled back the curtain to see what was happening, the man stopped. He made direct eye contact with her through the glass. After that brief pause, he resumed the same behavior, continuing to strike the window with his head as he had before the curtain was pulled. A passerby outside the building independently recorded the same incident from a different vantage point. That second recording captured the same behavior from an exterior angle, providing a separate visual record of the event from a position distinct from Alicia's interior footage. The presence of 2 independent recordings from different positions strengthened the evidentiary record available to responding officers. Alicia contacted police while the behavior was ongoing. The man continued striking the window during the period between her call and the officer's arrival, showing no observable response to pain or physical impact throughout. Officers arrived shortly after and physically restrained him, bringing the incident to a stop. Alicia told police she had no prior knowledge of the man and had not seen him before that night. Investigators determined that he was mentally unstable and likely under the influence of drugs at the time of the incident. He was taken into custody and transported to the police station. Alicia was not physically harmed. The man did not return. March 15, 2026, flash flooding and a landslide struck the village of Toshel in Turkey following heavy rainfall. According to reports, a private security guard in the area observed the water advancing and reached safety before it arrived. No human injuries were reported. The flooding damaged some homes and swept away animals. According to later reports, dozens of animals were killed. Sustained rainfall saturates soil on slopes, reducing its structural cohesion and increasing landslide probability, a condition that compounds the immediate flood risk. Authorities warned that heavy rain may persist across the region. Residents were advised to remain alert to the continuing risk of both flooding and landslides. The general understanding when someone gets handcuffed and placed in the back of a police vehicle is that the situation is resolved. This woman did not get that memo.
Damn. Oh my fucking God, this is live. They don't even see. They don't even see. They gonna kill her. They gonna beat the fuck out of her. Look, 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 look. Look, look, look. Y'all seen it live. This is live. Oh my fucking God.
She slips out of the cuffs and exits the car while the officers are still sitting right there in the front seats, not outside, not distracted down the street, right there. It takes them approximately 10 seconds to notice she is no longer in the vehicle. 10 seconds is a long time when you're supposed to be watching someone who is supposed to be unable to move.
They didn't see this, bro. Oh my.
Many in the TikTok comments were disappointed to hear she was found in an abandoned home and arrested again. On March 21st, 2026, an improvised floating bridge over the Brahmaputra River in Bangladesh collapsed under excessive weight. 4 fatalities have been confirmed. According to reports, a number of people remain missing. Improvised floating bridges operate with lower and less predictable load tolerances than engineered fixed structures, making them vulnerable to failure when weight thresholds are exceeded. At the time of this recording, rescue teams were actively searching the area. At the time of the incident, a bus carrying passengers was crossing a bridge over the affected zone. 1 person passed. Several others were injured. The Pacific entrance to the Panama Canal is a high-traffic industrial corridor where fuel handling operations and vessel transit routinely overlap. A concentration of activity that makes incidents in this zone visible across a wide area. If you thought that was disturbing, brace yourself for this next clip. Motorcyclists are riding down a road in Vietnam when a tree suddenly uproots and leans over the traffic. There is no obvious wind or warning. The dirt just gives way, and a trunk falls directly into the path of the riders. One motorcyclist is caught under the branches as a tree hits the pavement. The limbs collapse across the lane, and several other riders have to swerve to avoid the falling debris. The rider who was hit managed to walk away with only minor injuries. Looking at the footage of the impact, you can see the weight of the branches spinning the bike flat against the asphalt. In Phoenix, Arizona, a small plane crashed into a residential area after the pilot attempted to return to Deer Valley Airport. The return was initiated approximately 6 minutes after takeoff, following what was described as a mechanical issue. The aircraft struck the roof of a home before coming to rest in an adjacent backyard. 3 people sustained injuries. A fuel leak resulting from the crash prompted evacuations in the surrounding area. A pilot executing a return-to-airport maneuver at low altitude shortly after takeoff has minimal margin to manage an unfolding emergency, a factor that elevates risk in this phase of flight. At the time of this recording, an investigation into the crash was underway. Security camera footage from San Antonio, Texas, recorded on April 4th, 2026, captures a group of school students walking home when things got very interesting very fast. A rider lost control and was thrown from the bike. The bike caught fire. The rider caught the fire briefly as well. Those are 2 separate things happening in quick succession, and neither one ended the way it easily could have. Somehow the rider got up and walked away without injury. Speeding was identified as a contributing factor. The students nearby were unharmed. One more detail the footage doesn't tell you on its own. The rider was 16 years old. Cars are passing under an overpass in Tashkent, Uzbekistan, just moments before the structure fails. The timing is close. The last vehicle clears the area seconds before the middle section of the bridge gives way. The concrete span breaks apart and hits the road below. Despite being built less than 2 years ago, the bridge collapsed without any visible warning. No one was under the span when it hit the pavement, and no injuries were reported. Looking at the footage, the road's surface simply vanishes right behind the passing cars.
ला एक्सीडेंट भो एक्सीडेंट भयो यार मा कसम Oh my god.
On March 18th, 2026, a helicopter went down during a landing attempt in a field in Kotang, Nepal. The aircraft had been transporting a body from Katmu at the time of the incident. According to reports, one passenger sustained an injury. The pilot and the remaining people on board were unharmed. Landing in unimproved field environments presents elevated risk for rotary wing aircraft, as irregular terrain and limited approach options reduce the margin available to manage a developing problem. A family gathering at a country house in northeastern Brazil was captured on 2 separate sources: personal footage from the event and CCTV footage of the same scene. During the holiday gathering, the roof collapsed without warning onto the people present. One woman was struck directly by the falling structure. She sustained injuries that required medical treatment. When a roof fails suddenly in an occupied space, the presence of multiple people in close proximity increases the likelihood that more than one person will be affected. As of the latest update, everyone had been discharged from the hospital and a full recovery was expected for all those involved.
Guilherme, tem bicho aqui. Vem cá, vem. Você vai sair aí, tem bicho aqui. Ó. Aqui é onça. Vai do céu.
In Bao, Brazil, a resident discovered a mountain lion inside his garage. According to the report, the man is 92 years old and has vision problems that prevented him from noticing the animal initially. He became aware of its presence when he heard it growl. Firefighters responded and removed the cougar from the property. The animal was transported to the city zoo for evaluation and subsequently released back into the wild. Mountain lions encountered in residential settings are typically evaluated before release to assess whether the animal poses an ongoing risk or requires intervention prior to returning to its habitat. A man is stepping into his vehicle in a parking lot in Brazil when a truck suddenly pulls forward. The driver accelerates and slams directly into the side of the car while the man is still standing in the open door. The truck driver immediately tries to flee the scene. He didn't get far before police caught up to him and confirmed he had been drinking before getting behind the wheel. The man hit by the truck survived the impact with cuts and bruises on his legs. Looking at the footage, you can see the truck's front end crush the metal door exactly where he was standing. The footage was recorded by a cyclist who noticed a truck ahead was not driving properly. A second person in the area observed the same behavior. The incident occurred in Supia, Colombia. According to preliminary reports, the cause was fatigue. The driver fell asleep at the wheel. The truck left the road. The driver, Euron Sebastian Aguirre Lopez, 24 years old, died as a result. Driver fatigue is recognized as a significant contributing factor in vehicle incidents, impairing both reaction time and the ability to maintain control. In 2021, a video began circulating out of Redlands, California, passed between online forums before platforms existed to distribute it at scale. The footage documented a small group of friends entering Barton Villa, a historic property that had been sitting vacant. The recording runs approximately 20 minutes. The early portion of the footage covers the exterior of the property while daylight remained. The group moves around the outside of the building, the camera registering the structure in the fading light. Nothing in this section produces an anomaly. When full darkness arrives, they enter the building. The interior sequence records what an abandoned property sounds like when a small group moves through it. Floorboards responding to weight, the camera adjusting to low light, the ambient silence of an unoccupied structure at night. The house produces the expected conditions for this type of recording. The sequence changes at the top of the staircase.
What the hell is that? That on the floor. Right there. Yeah. Oh, go. Yeah, go. Swear to God. Go. No.
Someone's in there?
Swear to God. Swear to God. Oh, shit. Hell yeah.
You guys are lying.
We're not kidding. No.
Go left. Go. Hit the gas and go.
I can't see your freaking cameras in my way.
Oh, f***.
You guys are lying. Someone help.
No.
The camera captures something standing beyond a doorway, a towering silhouette, lit by what the footage suggests is a dim lantern-like source. The figure sight is the first detail that registers. It appears too tall to stand fully upright within the doorframe, its posture adjusted downward as if the opening cannot contain it at full height. Its proportions do not read as human. It holds nearly motionless throughout the duration of the camera's time on it. Viewers who encountered the footage attributed the figure to something inhuman, a claim that belongs to the viewer record, not the footage itself. Local legend associated Barton Villa with accounts of unusual gatherings and cult-like activity, and with something on the second floor described as dark and not meant to be disturbed. These details are part of the location's oral history, not confirmed record. The people who made the video never publicly stated they staged it. That is a confirmed absence, not an admission of authenticity, but a silence that has remained consistent since 2001. The figure at the doorframe appears too large for the opening it occupies. If the footage was staged, something was constructed or positioned to produce that specific proportion. If it was not staged, the proportion remains what the camera recorded. Those are the two options the footage leaves open. Vehicles are moving through the border crossing between Bahrain and Saudi Arabia when a loud, steady siren begins to wail over the checkpoint. The sound instantly stalls the traffic as drivers look toward the sky or check their mirrors. Some people tap their brakes while others lean out of their windows, clearly confused by the alarm. The line of cars comes to a complete halt as the sirens continue to scream over the idling engines. This happened just as conflict began to spread into the Gulf states. The footage ends with the traffic sitting dead still under the sound of the alarm, with no one sure whether to stay inside or run. In 2024, on Lobachi Street in Moscow, Russia, a truck caught fire in the middle of the street and subsequently exploded. The explosion was caused by a gas cylinder inside the vehicle. A compressed gas cylinder inside an enclosed vehicle significantly accelerates fire intensity and increases the force of any resulting explosion. 5 cars in the vicinity sustained damage. No people were harmed. The Bureau of Land Management produced a public safety film titled Stay Out and Stay Alive. Its purpose was to document the hazards present inside abandoned mines, unstable tunnels, collapsing shafts, leftover explosives, toxic air, and wildlife that occupies those spaces. The film's approach included real incident footage recovered from a group who had encountered those hazards directly. That footage is a record this reconstruction is drawn from. On July 4th, 1998, a group of young men in Nevada located an abandoned mine and entered it. The motivation was exploration. They had no safety equipment and no relevant training. They were documenting the descent as they went.
Pointing out, stay alive. It's a good point, but we're not too smart, so we're gonna go anyway.
This is an unsafe mine. Danger.
The conditions inside deteriorated as they moved deeper. The group crossed wooden planks suspended over open shafts, planks that had been in place for an indeterminate period and were not evaluated for load capacity before they were crossed. The footage documents them continuing forward past these crossings without stopping to assess what was ahead.
Look at all this. There's lots of rocks and stuff that have fallen from the ceiling, which indicates that probably a good idea to be walking this way. And,
well, they've already fallen, so they're not gonna fall again.
Well, there's more to fall still. Yeah, we gotta remember where we're... Okay, we got out here.
Who painted these X's in the cliff? Grant. What do they mean? Dead ends and stuff. Okay, they're all got an X on them. We can go this way. That one's got an X. But it's also got that. What does the diamond mean?
Where's that go?
Goes down.
Along there.
Ooh, that's not a little. Well, it'd be kind of hard if you slipped and fell. You could catch yourself before you actually fell down there. Not if panic set in and you spin like a little.
They passed sections of the mine where visible collapse had already occurred, structural failure that was observable in the recorded image, and the group's documented response was to keep moving. Each advance past a visible warning indicator placed them further from the entrance and deeper into an environment with no established exit route.
Oh, wow. We have to climb that?
Yeah, don't everybody get up.
I got
You don't need to lunch on the floor.
This is going to America's Funniest when somebody falls. That's a good idea. Alrighty. Oh, that table, don't touch that.
At a particular point in the interior, one of the group noticed a rope suspended from an old wooden beam overhead, its length disappearing into a vertical shaft below. None of the group had meaningful climbing experience.
Wow, so we're climbing down this rope.
Yeah. How far down?
How are we getting out of it?
Climbing up it.
I see.
The rope had been in place long enough that its material integrity was significantly compromised. Exposure to the mine environment over an extended period degrades both natural fiber and synthetic rope, reducing tensile strength. That condition was not assessed before the rope was used. Adam volunteered to descend first.
How does it go?
All the way down to that ladder. See where it's going down?
We're
Like a good 30 feet.
Where am I going to hook this
I'll
camera?
go first. I am. About 300 feet. You don't like to break out. You don't like to... Put it like he's doing it into your mouth. Yeah. It's all like this. Is it off now?
No, it's not. How am I going to get this thing down there? Yeah, but how am I going to get back up? I don't have...
Take that. Give you my belt. Stretch on it.
Adam! Oh!
Adam!
Hello?
Adam!
Yes.
Adam! Oh, God.
Oh God, somebody help.
The rope held briefly after taking its full weight, then it failed. Adam fell approximately 65 feet into the shaft. The camera documents what that distance produces. Contact with the shaft falls during the descent, an uncontrolled landing in darkness at the bottom. He was unconscious when he came to rest. His breathing continued. His friends located an exit point and contacted emergency services. The rescue operation took approximately 1 hour. That hour encompassed the time required for emergency responders to receive the alert, reach the mine's location, navigate the interior to Adam's position at the base of the shaft, and complete the physical extraction from underground to the surface. Adam was brought out of the mine and into the care of the responding teams. The injuries recorded across the group were broken bones, lacerations, and bruising. The fall did not prove fatal. The Bureau of Land Management incorporated this incident into Stay Out and Stay Alive as documented evidence of the conditions abandoned mines present to untrained entrants. The footage the group recorded during their descent, the crossing of the compromised planks, the rope, the shaft, became part of a public record intended to illustrate what the listed hazard produced in practice. The rope failed at 65 feet. Adam survived. A woman in Texas had been noticing unusual occurrences around her home for an extended period. According to her account, the shed in her backyard is a location no one approaches. Despite that, her dog had been directing sustained, fixed attention toward that specific spot day after day, staring at it with consistent focus regardless of what else was happening in the yard. She initially dismissed the behavior as unremarkable. The pattern continued. At some point, she made a decision to begin recording before anything further occurred, specifically because she wanted documentation in the event that what she was observing was later disputed. She was already recording when the next event took place. While she was outside with her dog, the shed door swung open. She approached the shed and continued filming. The dog's behavior at this point is the central footage observation.
That was hella weird. There's literally no way that door just opened by itself. Y'all, like, I really don't get freaked out, but that was really just... That door has a keypad lock on it. Like, and it's actually hard to get in. Dutch, where are you going? Don't leave me. There's like... What? Why did you just jump like that? Why did... Baby! Y'all, do you see her? What the f is going on?
The animal fixed its attention on a specific location behind the open door and remained locked on that point, reacting in a manner consistent with the presence of something at that location. The reaction was directionally consistent. The dog was not scanning the area or responding to general stimuli, but orienting toward a fixed point. From the woman's perspective, nothing was visible behind the door. The camera recorded no movement, no shadow, and no identifiable presence in the area the dog was reacting to. In paranormal investigation methodology, sustained and directionally consistent animal attention to a fixed location is treated as a behavioral indicator in a distinct category from direct camera capture. It functions as pre-evidence, observed independently of and prior to any footage event. The footage does not establish what caused the door to open. It does not establish what the dog was reacting to. What the recording does document is an animal maintaining a fixed behavioral response toward a location where the camera captured no visible presence. The dog's reaction and the camera's record of that location do not produce the same result. What accounts for the difference between them has not been determined. We've seen our share of close calls on this channel. Here's another. This one is close. A driver in Uzbekistan comes within range of hitting a bus, then a pedestrian, then another pedestrian. 3 separate near misses in what appears to be a very short stretch of road. The sequence ends when the car mounts a sidewalk and strikes a third pedestrian. That one makes contact. No fatalities were reported. The person who was hit survived. On August 23, 1987, 2 backpackers hiking south of the Junco Lake trailhead near Tabernac, Colorado, came across aircraft wreckage distributed among the trees. Pieces of metal were scattered across the forest floor in a pattern consistent with a high-impact collision. The distribution of debris across the site indicated the force of the original crash rather than subsequent disturbance. The wreckage had been exposed to 3 years of mountain weather, and the condition of the material reflected that duration. The hikers contacted authorities immediately, initiating a full investigation into the site. Colorado Deputy Sheriff Dale Wood responded and examined the debris across the crash site. The wreckage covered a substantial area among the trees, requiring systematic examination to document what was present. During his survey, Wood located a VHS tape suspended in the branches of a tree. The tape had sustained damage. Its contents were partially exposed and caught in the surrounding foliage. Wood recovered the tape and transferred it to specialists for restoration. When the restored footage was played back, it documented the final moments of 2 men who had been missing for nearly 3 years. The men were identified as James Jeb Codell, 36 years old, and his passenger Ronald U. Willman. On August 10, 1984, the 2 departed from Granby Airport aboard a Cessna L9E Bird Dog, with Jeffco Airport as their intended destination. They did not arrive. Search efforts conducted at the time were extensive. Personnel and resources were directed toward locating the aircraft and its occupants, and the search produced nothing. No wreckage, no signal, no physical evidence of any kind confirmed a location. A confirmed departure with no confirmed arrival and no trace recovered across a full search effort left the case with no resolution for the entire period between 1984 and 1987. A significant complication in the original search was the failure of the aircraft's emergency locator transmitter. The ELT is designed to broadcast a position signal following a crash. No signal was received during the search period. The footage recovered from the VHS tape opened with Codell making casual observations as the aircraft flew over the Colorado landscape. The camera recorded the view from the cockpit in the manner of routine flight documentation, the terrain below, the sky, the aircraft operating under normal conditions, with no indication of the developing situation.
Oh, look at that down there, Ronnie, on the left. Nice little lake and a cabin. Those dead trees down there. There are a whole bunch of them back up in here, those beetles. Very pretty little lake.
The altitude then began dropping. The camera captured the ground rising toward the aircraft. Then the plane flipped and struck the trees. Investigators who analyzed the footage concluded that Codell had failed to adequately account for density altitude, an aviation measurement that reflects the effective thickness of the air at a given location under prevailing conditions. At high elevations or in hot and humid atmospheric conditions, air becomes thinner. Thinner air reduces the aerodynamic performance an aircraft can generate, including its lift capability. Pilots are required to incorporate density altitude into their pre-flight calculations for both takeoff and flight planning. The analysis of the footage indicated that Codell's calculations did not adequately reflect the conditions present on the day of the flight. On the day of the crash, the density altitude in the Tabernac area was equivalent to 13,000 feet. The mountain terrain the aircraft was approaching reached 10,200 feet above sea level. The gap between those two figures, a density altitude of 13,000 feet against terrain rising to 10,200 feet, left the aircraft with insufficient performance margin to clear the terrain or recover from the developing situation. The reduced lift capacity of the air at that density meant the plane could not generate the climb rate the terrain demanded. When Codell attempted to pull up, the engine stalled under the aerodynamic load. The footage recorded the aircraft flipping over and impacting the trees. When the plane inverted and struck the ground, the impact damaged the ELT before it could activate. The transmitter sustained the damage during the crash sequence itself. The same event the device was intended to respond to rendered it non-functional before any signal could be broadcast. No distress signal was transmitted. This explained why the original search, however extensive, received no electronic indicator of the aircraft's position and returned nothing across a full 3 years the site remained undiscovered. Following the investigation, Kodell's family authorized the VHS footage to be used in pilot training programs. Their stated intention was to allow future pilots to learn from the circumstances of the crash with the aim of preventing similar accidents. The footage from the Cessna L9E Bird Dog is part of that training record. This man was doing his job before something unexpected happened.
الله يعطيك العافية علي الحلال اسلمها 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 لم النار وراك سلم انت الراس الله العمر شلون ان شاء الله يا ربي.
This clip was short but very scary. Thankfully, the man did survive. At precisely 4:06 p.m. on September 30th, 2019, Anchorage Police Department received a call from Valerie Kassler, 47 years old. Kassler reported finding an SD card on Fairbanks Street. Written in the card were the words "Homicide at Midtown Marriott." Kassler's initial assumption was that the card might be connected to a film production. According to official reports, the SD card contained 39 images and 12 videos documenting a crime scene inside a hotel room. The videos depicted a woman being subjected to a crime. The perpetrator remained off-camera throughout. The perpetrator's voice and accent were captured in the recordings. The videos were not released publicly. Investigators identified the voice on the recordings as belonging to Brian Stephen Smith.
Those trees, you'll see the doctor's house. He's like a heart surgeon or a brain surgeon or something. There's the other neighbors. And there's the tree in front of the house. And there's the other neighbors.
The identification was made possible by a prior contact Smith had initiated with the Anchorage Police Department. Days before the SD card was found, Smith had called to report stolen belongings. That interaction placed its voice in the investigative record. When investigators reviewed the recordings, the match was established. The voice recognition constituted the central evidentiary breakthrough in the case. Kassler provided a second independent line of corroboration. She identified the carpet pattern visible in the footage as matching the interior of Town Place Suites by Marriott, a property located approximately 5 minutes on foot from the location where she had found the SD card. Two independent details, the witness's identification of the carpet and the documentary hotel record, placed Smith at the same location. When investigators contacted the hotel, records confirmed Smith had checked in on the day the videos were recorded. Smith was originally from South Africa. He had obtained United States citizenship less than 1 year prior to the incident. At the time, he was employed as a manager at a Marriott hotel in Anchorage. The investigation led to the discovery of the remains of the victim, Kathleen Jo Henry, 30 years old, Alaska native. When the SD card was found, Smith had already departed Alaska on vacation with his wife. He was out of state during the initial phase of the investigation and was arrested upon landing back at Anchorage Airport upon his return. He was subsequently charged with more than 13 felonies. He entered a plea of not guilty. As the trial proceeded, a complication emerged concerning Kassler's account of how she had obtained the SD card. Her initial statement to police was that she had found the card by chance on the street. The trial record established otherwise. Kassler had been hired by Smith as an escort. During that visit, she took his phone. While attempting to clear the device, she encountered the files documenting the crime. She transferred the material to an SD card and constructed the account of finding it on Fairbanks Street. The prosecution's case withstood this development. In July 2023, Smith was convicted. He was sentenced to 226 years in prison. In Indonesia, a large sinkhole opened up and kept expanding after it formed. Sinkholes develop through subsurface erosion and can continue growing rapidly and unpredictably once a surface collapse begins, which is relevant context for what's visible here. People were present in the vicinity while this was happening. The sinkhole continued getting bigger as they stood nearby. That's the situation. Draw your own conclusions about the proximity. On the night of May 27, 2018, Spencer Mugford, 20 years old and a student at the University of Connecticut's Avery Point campus, met Sophia McKenna in the parking lot of that campus. The two had met while Sophia was working at a local spa. They briefly dated before determining they were better suited as friends. Spencer had recently taken work on a charter fishing boat, running half-day trips out of the local area. That night, the two took a small mastless sailboat from the university campus and set out toward the New London Ledge Lighthouse, a historic structure standing alone in the water, often described as one of Connecticut's eeriest landmarks. Just after 1 a.m., Sophia used Spencer's phone to post a video to a Snapchat story. The footage shows Spencer paddling across the water. The camera turns toward the distant shoreline, and Sophia's voice comments on how far they still have to go.
Yo, we're out here in the ocean with us. That is the land. Like, we still have to get to there. Wait, where? Oh, we're almost there.
The footage presents no indicators of distress. The mood in the recording appears relaxed. Around 2 a.m., Spencer posted a photograph from the lighthouse, Sophia standing in front of a no trespassing sign. That image is the last confirmed sighting of either of them. Sophia had been in a reportedly abusive relationship with a man named Austin Cordova. According to Sophia's mother, Michelle, the situation between them deteriorated after both Sophia and Austin began seeing other people. At that point, Michelle has stated, Austin allegedly appeared at Sophia's apartment, attempted to force his way inside, and made threats during the encounter. Following that incident, Sophia began spending more time with Spencer. The following day, Austin contacted Michelle to say he had not heard from Sophia despite plans he had made. Michelle then noticed multiple missed calls from an unfamiliar number, placed between 2:05 a.m. and 2:09 a.m. When she returned the call, the line connected to Spencer's phone. She reported her daughter missing. By 6 p.m. that evening, the Coast Guard had initiated a search. Investigators located Sophia's car in the university parking lot with her phone inside, establishing why she had used Spencer's phone to post the Snapchat video earlier that night. At the dock near the lighthouse, Spencer's shirt was found tied to a boat cleat. The shirt's position indicated it had been used as a mooring line to secure the sailboat to the dock, a makeshift fastening that suggested the boat had been tied off after their arrival at the lighthouse. The boat itself was no longer present. Austin and his father conducted an aerial search independently. During that flight, they located the overturned sailboat near Truman's Beach on Long Island's North Shore, approximately 13 miles from the lighthouse. The boat had traveled a significant distance from its last known position, ending up to the north of the lighthouse rather than back toward the Avery Point campus. Spencer's body was later recovered in the opposite direction from the boat's location. According to reports, unidentified fingerprints were recovered from the vessel. Those prints were never publicly analyzed. On May 28th, one day after the disappearance, the Coast Guard suspended the search due to deteriorating weather. On June 8th, a fisherman found Spencer's body floating in the ocean. Toxicology indicated the presence of alcohol and THC. The official cause of death was ruled accidental drowning. No signs of foul play were identified. On July 22, 2018, a Facebook group titled Finding Sophia McKenna was established. Members of the group raised several recurring questions about the case. They questioned why the Coast Guard suspended the search after only one day, given that Sophia had not been located. They questioned why Spencer's phone records were never fully released to the public. They questioned why the unidentified fingerprints recovered from the sailboat were not subjected to further examination or publicly disclosed analysis. They also questioned why Sophia did not place a call to emergency services during the period between approximately 2 a.m. and the following morning, when she would have been aware that something had gone wrong. Suspicion within the community focused on Austin, given the documented prior conflict. As of August 2024, no concrete evidence supports any claim of Austin's involvement in Spencer's death or Sophia's disappearance. Sophia's mother has publicly stated that she does not believe Austin was responsible. The prevailing investigator theory holds that the sailboat drifted loose at some point during the night and that Spencer entered the water in an attempt to retrieve it, drowning in the process. What occurred with Sophia afterward is not established by the investigative record. Two sourced possibilities address Sophia's fate. The first is that she entered the water in an attempt to assist Spencer after he went in, and that she drowned alongside him without her body being recovered in the subsequent search. The second is that she remained at the lighthouse after Spencer entered the water, did not contact emergency services because doing so would have required acknowledging that they had been trespassing on the property, and that what happened to her after that point is not captured in any confirmed record. Additional theories have circulated online, including a claim that a passing boater encountered Sophia after Spencer drowned, and a claim involving a confrontation between the two friends. No solid evidence supports either scenario. Spencer Mugford's death was ruled accidental. Sophia McKenna has not been found. At a port in Brazil, a container ship struck the dock during what was supposed to be a routine maneuver. The impact was unexpected and sent people in the area scrambling.
Caraca, mano. Estourou. Mano, isso aqui cai aqui e lascou-se. Que abriu. Sai daí, louco! Ô, sai daí, cara! É isso aí, bolsa perdida agora, hein? Vai jogar dos barcos lá de festa lá. Caraca, velho, olha o que aconteceu com a...
Ship reported punctured its hull as a result of the collision. Given the mass involved in even a slow-speed docking impact, hull integrity failure represents a serious incident classification. The structural forces generated can be significant regardless of the vessel's speed at the moment of contact. Whether any casualties occurred has not been confirmed either way. This one comes from TikTok, posted by the account Equitality. One morning, the homeowner looked out into her backyard and found a man in her garden. He was packing up his belongings. He hadn't passed through. He had been there overnight, sleeping on her property without her knowledge or permission. This wasn't an accidental intrusion. He had settled in and spent the night. She didn't immediately move. She stood and watched him for a period, taking in what she was looking at and assessing whether what she was seeing represented a threat. The situation didn't resolve itself into something obvious right away. She was processing it as she observed it. Once she had watched long enough to make a decision, she walked outside and asked him directly why he was in her garden.
You are on private property.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
And to be honest, I slept here on the...
I already figured that. Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, I get a little bit scared when there are strange men in my garden, you know?
Yeah, of course.
So what's your plan for the day? Are you moving out? Or?
Yeah, I just wanted to earn some herbs.
Yeah, okay.
And I wanted to go on.
Get you something if you need something.
It would be very nice if you could fill up the bottle with water.
You want some water?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
He answered her calmly. He explained his presence without deflecting or becoming hostile. There were no signs of aggression during the exchange. No raised voice, no threatening movement, no refusal to engage. The homeowner gave him water while the conversation was taking place. He accepted it. After the exchange concluded, he finished gathering his belongings and left the property without incident. That's a documented sequence. A stranger spent the night in someone's garden without permission, was confronted by the property owner the following morning, explained himself calmly, accepted water, and departed. Uninvited overnight occupancy of private residential property in the absence of apparent threat or forced entry puts the property owner in an ambiguous position. The situation doesn't map cleanly onto either a clear safety emergency or a straightforward trespassing call. Unlike a forced entry or active confrontation, the scenario presents no immediate physical threat to assess against, which creates a different kind of decision context for the person on the property. He explained himself. He showed no aggression. She gave him water. He left. She was unharmed. The same can't be said for those in this next case. On March 15, 2026, at around 10:10 in the morning, deputies were called to a Circle K gas station on Palm Coast Parkway Southwest after reports of a domestic disturbance. The call came from a store employee who had just encountered a woman in clear distress. According to the employee, the woman walked into the store with visible injuries, cuts, bruises, and a black eye, and urgently asked for someone to call 911. Fearing for her safety, the woman locked herself inside the bathroom while waiting for help. The employee also told dispatchers that the man she was trying to escape from was still outside in the parking lot. He was sitting in a silver Chevrolet parked at one of the gas pumps. That man was later identified as 24-year-old Rise Hill. When the first deputy arrived and approached the vehicle, Hill immediately sped off. Instead of exiting the lot normally, he drove out through the wrong exit and accelerated eastbound onto Palm Coast Parkway. From there, the situation escalated into high-speed pursuit. Deputies reported that Hill ran a red light almost immediately and began driving recklessly, reaching high speeds and weaving through traffic. At one point during the pursuit, he struck another vehicle but did not stop, continuing to flee despite the collision.
26. Southbound 95. Tell me to the police station.
Copy.
Disregard that FHP is 97 with me.
We're out far back to HB.
We passed the 265. FHP pit.
While deputies were chasing Hill, other officers remained at the gas station to speak with the victim, who was being treated by Flagler County Fire Rescue. What she told them painted a much more serious picture of what had happened leading up to that moment. According to the victim, Hill had physically assaulted her multiple times, striking her repeatedly. She said he also pulled out a handgun, pointed it at her head, and threatened to kill her. She told deputies that he used the weapon to hit her and, at one point, strangled her to the point where she lost consciousness. She explained that Hill had forced her to drive from Sanford to Palm Coast while continuing to assault her during the trip. Once they arrived in Palm Coast, they made several stops, including a residence on Wilmart Place and a smoke shop on Belterra Parkway. At each location, she said Hill made her stay in the vehicle while he removed the keys, preventing her from escaping. After those stops, Hill allegedly told her to drive back toward Sanford. Realizing she needed an opportunity to get away, she told him she needed gas and pulled into the Circle K. Once inside the store, she quickly asked the employee to call 911, leading to the response that set everything else in motion. Back on the road, deputies continued pursuing Hill as he made his way onto Interstate 95 South. Speeds climbed even higher, with authorities reporting that his vehicle reached over 120 miles per hour. Because of the danger to the public, supervisors authorized the use of a vehicle apprehension technique to bring the pursuit to an end.
Get out the car, hands up!
After several attempts, one of the maneuvers was successful. Hill's vehicle came to a stop at the intersection of Tomoka Farms and Pioneer Drive in New Smyrna Beach. Officers quickly moved in and took him into custody without further incident.
Your hands on your head! Start walking back towards us! Walk to your left. Yeah, keep walking back. Walk back. Walk back. Walk back. Walk back. Walk back. We got hands. Down your knees.
You're good to hop in. Let me go grab your shoes for you.
Hill was arrested and charged with several offenses, including domestic battery, false imprisonment, leaving the scene of a crash involving property damage, and fleeing or attempting to elude law enforcement with disregard for the safety of others. Additional charges were filed by the Florida Highway Patrol and the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, which is handling the portion of the case tied to the earlier domestic violence allegations. He was transported to the Volusia County Branch Jail where he is being held without bond. Authorities also noted that Hill has an extensive criminal history. He had previously served time in prison after being convicted in 2018 on charges that included attempted first-degree murder, attempted robbery with a firearm, and possession of a firearm by delinquent. Since 2015, records show he has been arrested multiple times across Flagler and Volusia counties for offenses ranging from aggravated assault and battery to burglary, grand theft, and firearm-related charges. At the time of this incident, he was already on an inmate release status. What began as a desperate call for help inside a gas station quickly turned into a multi-agency pursuit across county lines, ending with an arrest that investigators say likely prevented further harm. In 2019, at a chemical factory in Tuzla near Istanbul, Turkey, a large metal cylinder was launched into the air. People were present below it and moved to get clear.
Abi Yaşar abi. Kaç! Kaçmadı ki adam.
Pressurized or compressed industrial cylinders can become projectiles when subjected to rapid pressure release or heat, a failure mode documented across industrial accident records. According to Turkish news sources, no one is hurt. Other sources report that while civilians were unharmed, 2 firefighters sustained injuries. Both accounts are in the sourced record, which is accurate has not been resolved. This footage comes from a home security camera belonging to a woman named Sarah. On the morning of February 26, 2025, Sarah walked her son Lucas to school, a 5-minute route they covered every day. 2 schools operate in the area, one serving younger children, one for older students. After dropping Lucas off, Sarah came back home and locked the door. Approximately 15 minutes later, her phone received a motion detection alert from the front door camera. She opened the app and checked the feed. The footage showed a man standing at her front door. He was staring directly into the camera, then shifting to peer inside. He was dressed as a woman in a school uniform. Sarah noted that neither of the 2 nearby schools uses a uniform. That detail is her own observation. She could not determine whether the man had followed her from the school that morning, and the question remains unresolved. Motion-activated residential security systems have changed the response window available to homeowners in situations like this. Real-time remote access to door-level footage means a homeowner can see what is happening at their entrance without being visible or present at the door themselves. Police were contacted and arrived at the property. They collected the footage. As of the time this was recorded, Sarah does not know who the man was or what he wanted. His identity and his intent remain unresolved. In Kit, a village in Gujarat, India, an elderly man had sat down outside a shop in a public area along the street. Gas cylinders were positioned nearby. Their presence is noted in the footage, though they were not involved in what followed. bull struck him. According to available figures, approximately 5 million stray cattle roam India's streets. More than 200 people die annually as a direct result of cattle-related incidents. This pattern of stray cattle strikes extends across urban and semi-urban settings throughout the country, with public spaces and street-level areas representing the most common locations of contact. On the night of December 14th, 2023, Anton was asleep when his doorbell rang. It rang again. He got out of bed and moved toward the door. Through a window, he saw a man standing outside, someone he did not recognize. Anton took out his phone and started filming. At some point, he stopped recording. He later uploaded the footage to TikTok. What happened between the moment he stopped filming and the moment he posted the video is not established.
Rings my doorbell at 1 a.m.
What is it?
Didn't you hear me ringing?
It's 1 a.m. I was asleep.
I have rung at your door, cause my car broke down nearby.
Yeah. And? Hey.
I cannot hear you. Could you please come outside?
My door's right here. Can you come? Hey, calm down. I'm coming. Hey, could you please wait outside?
What's the matter? Am I scaring you?
I'm sorry, I don't know you and it's late.
So?
Yeah, what is it?
Don't you wanna come out and help me fix my car?
I'm sorry, I'm very tired.
We can have a coffee together. You can make me a coffee and I share it with you inside together.
But I don't know anything about cars, so I'm sorry, I won't be of any help.
I don't think you understood well.
The source does not confirm what occurred after the camera stopped. Some viewers have disputed the footage's authenticity, claiming the video was staged and produced with the intention of going viral. That claim is attributed to viewers. It has not been confirmed. The inability to verify the circumstances surrounding the footage posted on short-form video platforms has made authenticity disputes a documented feature of viral incident content, and this clip sits squarely in that category. What the record contains is this: a doorbell rang late at night, Anton saw an unfamiliar man outside, he filmed what followed, and he stopped at some point before uploading the footage. What the footage showed and what happened after the recording ended are both gaps the available information does not close. The footage exists. The outcome does not appear in the record. In Gujarat, India, a man was using an elevator when a sudden technical malfunction occurred. He stepped out of the elevator. As he did, the elevator began moving upward while the door remained open. The combination of upward movement and an open door while he was mid-exit placed him in a position where the elevator's frame was rising around him as he attempted to clear it. Elevator door interlock systems are designed to prevent car movement while doors are open. Failure of that interlock mechanism is a documented cause of this category of incident. He lost his balance and fell. He sustained injuries. He survived. On the evening of August 13th, 2024, George, 35 years old, returned home from work to find Anna, a teenage girl from the neighborhood, standing on his porch. She was visibly upset, and her eyes were moving as though she was watching for something behind her. The footage documents George taking in the scene before opening the door and letting her inside.
He's coming.
Who's coming?
George's two young ones were present in the home when Anna entered. George took out his phone and attempted to place a call to 911. Before that call was completed, Anna's stepfather broke in through the back door of the house.
Oh my God! Oh, please.
Anna moved away from the point of entry, running to another part of the home to put distance between herself and the stepfather. George moved into the space between Anna and the stepfather, positioning his body between them as the stepfather advanced into the house.
Get out of my house! What's up, dog? Get out of my house!
Anna ran out of the house. The footage captures her exit through the door. George's older son, Chase, present in the home during the incident, attempted to reach police by phone. The footage ends at that point. Residential security footage that captures an intrusion in progress documents a sequence of events up to the point the recording stops. What happened after the footage cut is outside the confirmed record. What happened to Anna and her stepfather after the footage ends has not been established. I hope they're okay. A Ring doorbell camera recorded the sequence of events that unfolded at a woman's front door after she returned from a visit to a nearby friend's house. She was unaware as she approached her door that she was being followed. The man behind her was later identified as Lou Leandra Meadows, 32 years old. Meadows attacked her at the front door. He overpowered her and dragged her toward a vehicle that was waiting nearby. She was taken from the scene. The following morning, neighbors discovered unfamiliar items scattered in their yard. The items prompted them to review their own security footage. That footage showed the woman being attacked and removed from the area. The neighbors contacted police. An urgent search was initiated. Residential security camera networks, including doorbell cameras and systems owned by neighboring properties, have become a documented factor in reconstructing the timelines of abduction cases, as the sequence illustrates. Hours after the search began, officers located the woman inside Meadows' home. She was found restrained and unable to leave. Authorities stated that she had been rescued just in time. According to authorities, a longer delay in locating her could have proven fatal. On the morning of March 2, 1998, 10-year-old Natasha Kampusch walked down the pavement of Vienna's Donaustadt district. She was alone, making the trip to school by herself for the first time that year. The street was quiet, but a white Fiat Ducato was parked at the curb ahead. As she passed the vehicle, the sliding door opened. A man reached out, grabbed her, and pulled her into the van. A 12-year-old boy standing a distance away saw the struggle, but the van was already pulling back into traffic before he could react. In less than a minute, Natasha had vanished from a public sidewalk in broad daylight, leaving no trace behind but the witness's description of a white van and a driver acting alone. The search that followed became one of the largest police operations in Austrian history. Because of the witness report, authorities focused almost exclusively on white delivery vans, eventually stopping and inspecting over 700 vehicles across the region. One of those vans belonged to Wolfgang Perklopel, a 36-year-old communications technician living in the town of Strasshof. When investigators arrived at his home, they found him calm and cooperative. He told the officers he was using the van to haul heavy rubble for a home renovation project. His explanation was logical, and his demeanor didn't raise any red flags. The officers noted his statement, checked his name off their list, and left the property. They did not search the house or the garage. At that moment, Natasha was less than 50 feet away from them, hidden in a space they hadn't even thought to look for. Inside the garage of that house, Perklopel had constructed a hidden vault beneath the floor. To access it, he had moved a heavy workbench and a large cupboard that sat over a concealed opening. Beneath the furniture was a weighted concrete trapdoor that led down a steep, narrow set of stairs. At the bottom sat a tiny steel hatch, the kind found in a high-security safe. Once through the hatch, the space opened into a windowless room, measuring roughly 5 feet by 8 feet. The walls were reinforced concrete and completely soundproofed. There was no natural light, no clock, and no way for any sound from the cellar to reach the garage above. The only air came from a mechanical ventilation system that hummed day and night, marking the only constant sound in the silence. For the first 6 months, Natasha lived entirely within those 4 walls. She was never allowed to leave the room for any reason. Inside there was a small bed, a sink, a toilet, and a few shelves. Perklopel told her that her parents had stopped looking for her and that the police had closed the case. He told her that he was the only person who knew she was alive and the only person she could trust. In a total isolation of the cellar, his voice was the only information she received about the outside world. He controlled the lights, the food, and the ventilation. If she didn't follow his instructions, he would turn off the power or withhold meals, leaving her in total darkness for hours or days at a time. As the months turned into years, the isolation shifted into a rigid daily cycle. Eventually, Perklopel began allowing her to leave the cellar during the day to perform tasks in the main house. She was expected to act as a servant, scrubbing his floors, cooking his meals, and cleaning every room to his exact specifications. Despite being above ground, she was never left alone. If the doorbell rang or if he had to leave for work, she was immediately sent back down into the cellar and locked behind the steel hatch. The routine was absolute. Daylight was for labor under his direct supervision. The nights were for the darkness of the vault. This cycle continued for years, with her childhood ending in a repetitive loop of housework and underground confinement. The control was maintained through constant threats and physical punishment. Berklopel was obsessed with order, and any deviation resulted in violence. He would beat her for small mistakes and then criticize her for the bruises he had caused. He claimed the house was wired with explosives and told her that if she ever tried to run, he would trigger them, killing her, the neighbors, and any police officers who tried to help. He created an environment where survival depended on total obedience. She learned to monitor his breathing, his footsteps, and the tone of his voice to anticipate his moods. She spent her adolescence learning how to manage the temper of the man who held her life in his hands. By the time she turned 18, Natasha had spent half of her life in that property. Berklopel's confidence in his control grew to the point that he began taking her on brief outings. He took her to a hardware store and even to a crowded ski resort near Vienna. In those moments, she was surrounded by hundreds of people. She stood in lift lines and sat in public areas, but Berklopel remained inches away at all times, often holding her arm. She later described the physical proximity to rescue and the paralyzing fear that a failed attempt would result in her death. To anyone watching, they looked like a quiet, unremarkable pair. No one noticed a thin, pale girl standing in the crowd. The end of her captivity came on August 23, 2006. It was a hot afternoon, and Berklopel told Natasha to vacuum the interior of the white van in the garden. The machine was loud, creating a constant drone in the quiet yard. While she was working, Berklopel's cell phone rang. To hear the caller over the noise of the vacuum, he stepped away toward the other side of the yard, turning his back for a moment. Natasha left the vacuum running so the sound wouldn't change. She turned and ran out of the gate. She was barefoot. She scrambled over the fences and through neighboring yards, her heart racing as she tried to put distance between herself and the house. She ran past several people, including a woman walking a dog, but no one stopped to help. Finally, she saw an elderly woman through a window and knocked on the glass. When the woman opened the door, Natasha said, "I'm Natasha Kampusch." The neighbor called the police immediately. When officers arrived, they found a young woman who was visibly malnourished and in shock. She weighed only 105 pounds, which was nearly the same weight she had been when she was kidnapped at age 10. Her skin was ghost white from years without regular sunlight, and she had grown only 6 inches in 8 years. She was taken to a secure location where she was identified by a childhood scar and DNA. The news that she was alive and had escaped on her own reached the media within hours, ending an 8-year-old mystery that most had assumed ended in a cold case. When Wolfgang Berklopel realized Natasha was gone, he fled. He drove to a train station in Vienna and took his own life that evening, having told Natasha many times that he would never be taken alive. The investigation into the house in Strasshof finally took place, revealing the hidden chamber beneath the garage and the tiny hatch that had kept her prisoner for 3,096 days. In the months following her escape, Natasha faced intense public scrutiny. The world expected a specific type of victim, but she was composed and articulate. She refused to share graphic details of her abuse for public consumption and pushed back against being labeled with Stockholm Syndrome. She explained that her survival required a complex relationship with the only person she saw for 8 years and that she would not be defined by the role of a helpless victim.
Es gab so Aktionen seitens meines Vaters, die ich einfach nicht einordnen konnte und verstehen konnte. Und da war es mir einfach wichtig, mich ein wenig zu distanzieren. Einiges war sogar unverzeihlich.
Was für Dinge meinen Sie damit unverzeihlich?
Naja, diese ganzen Inzweifelstellungen, dass das alles so war, wie es war. Dieses Misstrauen, dieses Paranoide. Da die Medien ja auch an allem dann zu zweifeln begannen und nicht nur an der Eintätertheorie. Und das hat mich halt auch sehr verletzt, weil ich mir dachte, mein Vater könnte ja auch seine eigene Ansicht für sich behalten. Er müsse sie ja nicht den Journalisten nahebringen.
Ich muss es, ja, aber ich kann nicht glauben an die Eintäter-Theorie. Wenn sie glaubt, das war nur ein Täter, das kann ja möglich sein. Das kann möglich sein.
She eventually took ownership of the house where she had been held, not to live there, but to prevent it from being sold as a spectacle or turned into a museum. She had a secret cellar filled with concrete, sealing the vault forever. Natasha Kampusch still lives in Vienna today. She has written about her experience and worked on various projects, but she remains a private person despite her fame. She continues to own the house in Strasshof, keeping it empty and the garden maintained. The secret chamber is gone, buried under tons of concrete, and the trapdoor is sealed. The house remains a quiet, regular building on a suburban street. If you thought that was disturbing, our next case will leave you shocked. It was a quiet Friday night when Anton's doorbell rang. It rang again and then again. He picked up his phone and started recording. The footage shows a woman standing outside, appearing frozen in place. A man was positioned just steps behind her.
Hello?
Hello. I'm sorry to bother you, but there is a creepy guy who's been following me for the last 10 minutes.
Yeah?
Can I stay at your place until he's gone?
Yeah, come in.
Thank you.
Are you okay?
I just hope he didn't see me coming here.
Don't move. Hide yourself. Yeah?
Hello.
What is it?
I was out for a walk with my wife and
Yeah?
we had a little argument and I lost sight of her.
Yeah, and?
Have you seen the young woman by any chance?
No, I'm sorry.
25 years.
No.
Blue eyes.
No. No, sorry, bye.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Bye. Hey. It's okay, he's gone.
The woman walked away safely. Some viewers have questioned whether the footage is authentic, suggesting the scenario may have been constructed for online attention. That dispute is part of the viewer record on this clip. Footage showing a person being followed at close range at night generates authenticity disputes online precisely because the scenario is both genuinely common and relatively straightforward to stage, which is what makes resolving the question difficult in either direction. Anton's presence at the door is noted in the source as a possible factor in how the situation resolved, the suggestion being that his recording may have contributed to the woman getting away safely. That is the source's framing, not a confirmed causal fact. The man was standing just steps behind the woman at the moment the footage was recorded. Whether that proximity establishes intent or whether the entire scene was arranged is a question the footage leaves open, and a specific detail that neither explanation fully accounts for on its own. The emergency room at the Landsklinikum Amstetten in Austria was quiet at 3 a.m. on April 19, 2008. The automatic doors slid open as a man named Joseph Fritzl walked in, carrying a 19-year-old girl named Kirsten. She was limp and gray-skinned. Medical staff moved her immediately to a gurney and wheeled her into a trauma bay. Nurses began cutting away her clothes while a doctor checked her pupils and started an IV line. Kirsten was unconscious. Her breathing was shallow and her heart rate was erratic. Joseph stood against a tiled wall about 5 feet away from the bed. He stayed perfectly still. He watched the doctors insert a breathing tube into the girl's throat. He didn't move his hands or look away. He didn't ask the nurses any questions about her survival. He just stood there, watching the monitors. A doctor stepped away from the bed and approached Joseph to ask for the girl's medical history. Joseph spoke in a flat, even voice. He said the girl's mother, his daughter Elizabeth, had left home 24 years ago to join a religious cult. He told the doctor that Elizabeth occasionally left children at his house and that Kirsten was one of them. He said Elizabeth had appeared at his door earlier that night, dropped the girl off because she was ill, and then vanished again. The doctor looked at Kirsten. Her teeth were almost entirely gone, decayed down to the gum line. Her skin was translucent white, showing the veins beneath in a way that suggested she had not been in the sun for years. When the lab results came back, they showed her internal organs were failing from a total lack of basic vitamins. The hospital staff notified the police. When investigators arrived at the hospital, they found Joseph still standing in the hallway. He repeated the same story. He had a letter with him, supposedly written by Elizabeth, explaining that she couldn't care for the girl. The officers looked at the paper. The handwriting was cramped. Joseph told them he had no way to contact the mother and no idea where the cult was located. He stayed calm, answering every question with short, direct sentences. He didn't pace or fidget. He acted like a man explaining a routine business transaction. The police remained at the hospital, watching him, while other officers began looking into the missing person report for Elizabeth Fritzl from 1984. The situation stayed at a standstill for several days while Kirsten remained on life support. The hospital put out a televised appeal, asking the mother to come forward for the sake of the girl's medical treatment. Later that day, police took Joseph back to his house at Ibstrasse 40. It was a 3-story building with gray siding and several separate apartment units. Joseph led the officers into the basement. The air was cool and smelled of damp earth and sawdust. Behind the shelves was a small, square hole cut into the concrete. This led into a narrow, low-ceilinged tunnel made of raw concrete. At the end of the tunnel was a heavy steel door equipped with an electronic keypad. Joseph entered a code and the door clicked open. Behind that was another door, and then a third. Each door was reinforced with iron bars and thick rubber seals around the edges. When the last door opened, they were in a series of small interconnected rooms. The ceiling was less than 6 feet high. The The officers had to keep their heads tilted to avoid hitting the light bulbs hanging from the wires. This was the underground area where Elizabeth had been kept since August 28, 1984. It was roughly 600 square feet. It was divided into a kitchen area, a small bathroom with a shower, and 2 sleeping areas. The kitchen had a small sink, a 2-burner electric stove, and a refrigerator stocked with basic groceries. In the back rooms, the officers found 2 more people, an 18-year-old boy named Stefan and a 5-year-old boy named Felix. They were dressed in ordinary clothes, but they moved with a strange, hesitant gait. Neither of them had ever been outside the basement. They had never seen a tree, felt rain, or seen the sun. They lived in a world of constant artificial light and the smell of recycled air. The contrast between the levels of the house was absolute. Upstairs in the main living quarters, Joseph's wife, Rosemary, lived a normal life. She cooked in a full-sized kitchen with windows that looked out onto the street. She sat on a balcony in the sun. She raised 3 of Elizabeth's other children who Joseph had brought upstairs years ago, claiming they had been abandoned on the porch. The people living in the upstairs apartments had no idea there was a second family living under their feet. They reported hearing thumping sounds occasionally, but Joseph told them the pipes were old and the water heater was failing. People lived their lives, ate dinner, and slept just inches above the concrete ceiling of the bunker. Forensic teams moved into the house and spent several weeks documenting the space. They found that Joseph had built the bunker in stages, starting shortly after he locked Elizabeth in the basement in 1984. He had dug out the dirt by hand, carrying it out in buckets and hiding it in the garden or mixing it with construction debris. He had reinforced the walls with thick layers of concrete and steel to make sure the space was soundproof. He had installed an electronic locking system that only he could operate. He had also set up a system to cut off the electricity and air if Elizabeth ever tried to resist him. Every part of the structure was designed to prevent escape and hide the sound of anyone living below the floorboards. The investigation uncovered forged documents and letters that Joseph had used to deceive the local government. He had convinced social services that Elizabeth was a runaway, and he even managed to legally adopt the 3 children he brought upstairs. He had a file for every child, with fake stories about how they arrived. He had successfully managed 2 separate households for 24 years without a single neighbor, tenant, or government official realizing that the basement held a secret room. He had lived as a respected member of the community, a handyman who took care of his property and his family. During the trial in 2009, the proceedings were closed to the public to protect Elizabeth and her children. The jury was shown 11 hours of videotaped testimony Elizabeth had given to the police. The footage was so detailed and intense that several jurors required breaks to recover from what they were hearing. On the 3rd day of the trial, Elizabeth came into the courtroom. She didn't speak. She just sat in the back of the room and watched her father. When Joseph saw her, his demeanor changed. He stopped trying to justify the bunker as a home and changed his plea to guilty on all counts, including murder by negligence for a child who had died in the basement years earlier. Joseph Fritzl was sentenced to life in a psychiatric prison. He remains there today, far away from the house in Imstrasse. Elizabeth and her children were moved to a different part of Austria and given new names to protect their privacy. They live in a house with large windows and a yard. The children who grew up in the dark had to be treated for physical issues caused by the lack of space and light. They had to learn how to walk on uneven ground and how to look at the horizon. In 2013, a construction crew arrived at the house in Amsterdam. They brought in massive concrete mixers and began pumping liquid concrete through the basement windows. They filled the workshop, the hidden tunnel, and the entire underground bunker. Today, the house looks like any other multi-unit building in the neighborhood. People walk past it every day on their way to work, and cars park in the driveway. The only thing left is a flat, gray building sitting on a solid foundation of concrete. On a warm Saturday afternoon in July 1995, 15-year-old Elise Haller told her parents she was heading out to meet some friends. She stepped out of her house in Arroyo Grande, California, wearing a t-shirt and jeans, expecting a typical summer day on the Central Coast. She had been contacted by 3 older boys she knew from school, Royce Casey, Jacob DeLashmut, and Joseph Fiorella. They told her they were heading out to a quiet spot to hang out and smoke some marijuana. It was a casual invitation, the kind that happened every weekend in a small town. Elise agreed to go. She met them as planned, and the 4 of them piled into a car to drive toward a eucalyptus grove near Nipomo, about 10 miles away. The boys had spent the months leading up to this afternoon in a very different way than Elise. Most days, Casey, DeLashmut, and Fiorella could be found in a garage surrounded by amplifiers and heavy metal posters. They had started a band called Hatred. While they practiced, the conversation often shifted away from music. Joseph Fiorella, who was only 14, spoke the most. He talked about the lyrics of bands like Slayer and how they weren't just songs, but a way to achieve a higher level of intensity. He told the others that their band would never be successful unless they did something to earn it. Over several weeks, this idea became more specific. Fiorella told them they needed to perform a sacrifice. He said they needed to find a girl who was pure to seal a pact that would make them famous. He eventually settled on Elise. They talked about it during rehearsals and while walking home from school, treating the plan like a necessary step to their musical careers. When the car pulled up to the edge of the eucalyptus grove on July 22nd, everything seemed normal. The sun was filtering through the tall, thin trees, and the air smelled of menthol and dry earth. The group got out and started walking. They didn't stay near the road. They walked deeper into the grove, moving through the thick layer of fallen leaves and bark that muffled their footsteps. The shade was deep and the air was still. They talked about school and joked around. Elise walked in the middle of the group, occasionally laughing at something one of them said. As they moved further in, the ground became uneven, choked with fallen branches and silver blue leaves. They kept walking until the trees became dense enough to hide them from the view of the nearby highway. The sound of passing cars faded into a low hum. The group eventually stopped in a small clearing where the ground was mostly flat. They sat down and began to talk, still acting like friends hanging out on a Saturday. Then the behavior shifted. Elise turned her head to look at a tree or a bird in the brush. In that moment, one of the boys moved behind her. He looped a belt around her neck and pulled it tight. Elise began to struggle, reaching for her throat, but she was pinned down. Joseph Fiorella pulled out a hunting knife he had brought with him and began to strike her. Royce Casey joined in, and as Elise fell to the ground, he kicked her. The attack was not fast. The boys didn't run away immediately. They stood in the clearing and watched Elise as she lay on the ground, bleeding. They waited for several minutes, watching her until she finally stopped moving. The only sound left was a wind in the canopy. Once the clearing went silent, the boys didn't panic. They had come prepared. They produced a shovel and began to dig into the dry, sandy soil right there in the grove. They worked together to create a shallow hole. They placed Elise inside and covered her with the dirt they had just dug up. They spent time smoothing out the ground, piling dry leaves and branches over the spot until it looked like the rest of the forest floor. They gathered their things, walked back to the car, and drove away. That evening, they went back to their homes. They ate dinner with their families. They went to sleep. The next day, they were back in the garage, practicing their music as if nothing had happened. The soil in the grove remained undisturbed. Back at the Pollard house, the evening turned into a search. Elise's parents called her friends, then the police. By Sunday morning, the community was on alert. Flyers with Elise's photo were printed and taped to the windows of grocery stores and gas stations. Search parties were organized, with hundreds of volunteers walking through the hills and along the beaches of the Central Coast. The police went to Arroyo Grande High School and interviewed dozens of students. They spoke to Casey, Delashmet, and Fiorella because they were known to be acquaintances of Elise. The boys were calm. They told the officers they hadn't seen her that day. They went back to class. Weeks passed, then months. The flyers began to fade and tear in the wind. The searches scaled back. Elise remained a missing person, and the eucalyptus grove stayed empty. The transition from a missing person case to a murder investigation didn't happen because of a clue left behind. It happened because of a shift in Royce Casey. In the months following the afternoon in the grove, Casey began to change. He started attending a Christian youth group and became more involved with his church. As he spent more time there, he became quieter and more withdrawn. The pressure of what he knew began to show in his behavior. By March 1996, 8 months after Elise had disappeared, Casey decided he couldn't keep the secret anymore. He went to his pastor and confessed to what had happened in the woods. The pastor immediately took him to the police. Casey sat in an interrogation room and walked the detectives through every step of the plan. He explained the sacrifice and the pact they believed they were making. He told them exactly where they had gone. He agreed to take them to the site. A fleet of police vehicles drove out to the Nipomo Grove. Casey led the officers into the trees, retracing the walk they had taken with Elise. He stopped at a specific clearing that looked identical to every other part of the woods. He pointed to the ground. Investigators began to dig, and within a short time, they found Elise. The dry California air had preserved the site, allowing the medical examiners to document the specific injuries she had sustained. The secret was finally out of the ground. All 3 teenagers were arrested that same day. Joseph Fiorella was 14, Jacob Delashmet was 16, and Royce Casey was 17. Because of the nature of the crime and the months of planning involved, they were all charged as adults. During the proceedings, the boys didn't offer a complicated defense. They admitted to the details Casey had already provided. They confirmed that they chose Elise because of her age and her appearance, believing she was a perfect subject for their ritual. They were all convicted of first-degree murder. Each was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison, while the boys were sent to separate correctional facilities. Elise's parents, David and Suzanne Pollard, began a legal effort against the influences they believe had led to their daughter's death. They filed a lawsuit against the band Slayer. They argued that the violent and ritualistic themes in the band's music had served as a manual for the 3 boys. The lawsuit lawsuit moved through the court system for several years, becoming a point of discussion regarding the responsibility of artists for the actions of their fans. In 2001, a judge dismissed the case, ruling that the lyrics were a form of protected speech and did not constitute a direct order to commit a crime. Jacob DeLashma eventually gave an interview for prison, stating that while they liked the music, it wasn't the cause. He said the plan was the result of their own escalating ideas and Fiorella's fixation on the act itself. In the decades since the conviction, the individuals involved have aged within the California prison system. Jacob DeLashma served 30 years and was eventually granted parole. He was released in July 2025. Royce Casey, the one who had initially come forward to confess, was also granted parole and was released from custody in August 2025. Both men are now living back in society under parole supervision. Joseph Fiorello, who was identified as the primary instigator of the plan, remains incarcerated at High Desert State Prison. He has attended several parole hearings, but as of 2026, he has not been granted release. The Eucalyptus Grove in Nipomo still stands. It is a public area where people walk dogs and hike. There is no sign of the clearing or the shallow grave. The Pollard family remains in the area, and the high school Elise attended continues to operate. The story of what happened in the trees is now a piece of local history, often brought up by people who lived in Arroyo Grande in 1995. In October 2023, a man living in Fishkill, New York, reported hearing a loud noise from the wooded area behind his home. He went outside, expecting to find wildlife.
What the f*** are these things that keep flying around? They're disappearing.
According to his account, he observed two pairs of glowing eyes in the darkness. He reports that the eyes were positioned high in the trees, higher by his account than the elevation where most animals would typically be found at night. Eye shine in nocturnal animals is produced by the tapetum lucidum, a reflective layer behind the retina. When eye shine is a primary observation, elevation and movement pattern are the two variables used to narrow identification, and it is on both of those points that this account diverges from a routine wildlife sighting. The figures, according to the man, were not moving the way climbing animals move. He describes the movement as closer to jumping or gliding between trees than to any conventional climbing behavior. He also reports that throughout this movement, the eyes continue to track in its direction.
It's like in the woods. There's been a few of them. It's like they just fly into the woods and they fly back out. It's looking at me. Jesus Christ, that is a thing. That's a I can hear it moving.
The man states he has no explanation for what he observed. He reports that he never encountered the figures again. The elevation the man describes above the range where known arboreal animals typically position themselves at night is a detail his account does not resolve. Whether a known species accounts for eye shine at that height, or whether no identified animal fits the combination of elevation and movement he describes, is the question his account leaves open. The MTA, which stands for the Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority, released footage of an incident that occurred on December 29, 2025. During severe winds, a large tree toppled onto the tracks. The train struck the tree. The impact jolted passengers and the train derailed. According to an MTA spokesperson, the collision resulted in track damage, significant equipment damage, and the derailment of the front axle. Fallen trees and debris on transit tracks represent a documented derailment risk during high wind weather events, as vegetation strikes can compromise both rolling stock and track infrastructure. In September 1983, 23-year-old Tammy Oldham and her fiancé, 34-year-old Richard Sharp, stood on a wooden dock in Tahiti. They were looking up at the hull of a 43-foot luxury yacht named Hazana. They weren't the owners of this boat. A British couple had approached them with a specific job: sail the vessel 4,000 miles across Pacific to San Diego. The deal was $10,000 upon delivery and 2 return plane tickets. For 2 people who live for the sea, it was the kind of work they needed to fund their next year of travel. They had met in Tahiti just 5 months earlier and were already engaged. Richard was an experienced blue water sailor, and Tammy had thousands of miles of offshore experience. They spent days checking the charts, stocking the small galley, and monitoring the weather faxes. They saw a tropical depression forming on the edge of the map, but it was far off their projected path. They decided to weigh anchor, pushing off from the dock and heading into the open blue of the Pacific. For the first 2 weeks, the voyage was a master routine. They settled into the rhythm of the watch, gripping the wheel for hours, alternating sleep and steering while the Hazana cut through the water under clear, hot skies. But the tropical depression they had been watching didn't dissipate. It intensified. It turned into Hurricane Raymond, a Category 4 storm with wind speeds exceeding 140 miles per hour. By the time they saw the sky changing and realized the storm had shifted course to head directly for them, it was too late to outmaneuver it. The horizon turned a deep rust purple. The swells began to grow into massive moving walls of gray water that towered over the mast. Richard and Tammy worked until their hands were raw to prepare the boat for a direct hit. They struggled with the heavy canvas, taking down the sails and battening the hatches. Tammy's fingers fumbled with the slick lines, the wind already whipping the fabric out of her grip as she tried to lash it down. The rigging began to scream, a high-pitched metallic wail that made it impossible to hear anything else. As 40-foot waves began to break over the deck, the cockpit filled with waist-deep water in a few seconds. Richard gripped the wheel with both hands, his knuckles white, and shouted for Tammy to go below deck. He wanted her in the cabin while he stayed at the helm, clipping into his safety line, trying to keep the boat from being broadsided by the breaking crests. The last thing she heard was Richard screaming her name over the roar. Then the boat was hit with the force of a high-speed collision. The Hazana was pitch full, flipped and over-end, and rolled a full 360 degrees. When the small sail finally caught the wind, the boat lurched. It was moving at a grueling 2 knots, barely faster than a walking pace, but the water was finally moving past the hull. The boat's electronics were dead, the screens dark and encrusted with salt. Tammy found a sextant in a drawer and a plastic watch that still worked. Every day at noon, she stood on the shifting deck, trying to steady the sextant against the horizon to measure the angle of the sun. She had to wedge her feet against the railing to keep from falling. Her math had to be perfect. She realized San Diego was an impossible goal. She was being pushed by the current. Her only hope was Hawaii. If she missed that tiny chain of islands by even a few miles, she would drift into the empty North Pacific where no ships traveled. The days blurred into a repetitive cycle. She rationed her supplies, eating cold canned fruit and peanut butter straight from the jar. She rigged a tarp to catch rainwater, huddling under it during squalls to lick the moisture off the plastic. The sun was a constant weight, peeling the skin from her shoulder. She kept talking to the empty air, telling the imaginary Richard about her daily calculations and the condition of the rudder. She would look at the spot where he usually sat and wait for a nod. One afternoon, a shape appeared on the horizon, a cargo ship. Tammy's heart hammered against her ribs as she fumbled for the flare gun. She hesitated, waiting for the right moment, then fired one, then another. The red streaks hung in the air, brilliant against the blue sky. She stood on the deck and waved the yellow life jacket, screaming until her throat felt like it was tearing. The ship didn't slow down, it didn't change course. She watched the massive hull grow smaller and smaller until it vanished completely. She sat on the deck in the silence for hours, staring at the empty spot where the ship had been, wondering if her mind had made it up. On the 41st day, the horizon changed again. It wasn't a ship at first, just a dark speck that didn't move like the waves. As she got closer, she realized it was a Japanese research vessel, the MYUU. Tammy didn't scream this time. She moved with mechanical precision, launching her last flares and holding her breath. The Japanese crew gathered at the railing, looking down in total silence at the sun-scorched skeletal woman standing on a boat that had no masts. They lowered a thick line and began a long tow into Hilo, Hawaii. Tammy had navigated 1,500 miles on a ruined boat using nothing but the stars in her own hands. When she reached the shore, she had lost 40 pounds and her hair was matted with salt and oil, but she walked off the boat on her own. Her feet felt strange on the solid ground. Tammy Oldham remained in Hawaii for months, recovering from the physical toll and the loss of her fiancé. She never gave up the sea. She eventually returned to Tahiti and continued to sail, earning her captain's license and spending the rest of her life navigating the world's oceans. Richard Sharp was never found. The safety harness remained clipped to the Hazana until it reached the dock, a reminder of the moment the line snapped in the middle of the storm. You got a corgi in China apparently leading a pack of dogs away from a truck, and that's the part that got everyone's attention. The video purports to show exactly that. Apparently, those dogs had been stolen from villages in the area and were apparently on their way to a butcher when this happened. The corgi kept moving until the group was far enough away from the vehicle that some locals noticed them. Those locals reached out to a canine rescue organization. Worth noting as factual context, dog meat consumption is not illegal in China. The image of a single corgi apparently walking a group of dogs away from that situation is the kind of thing that travels fast online regardless of where you stand on anything else about it. On June 5, 2025, Chicago police officers Crystal Rivera and her partner Carlos Baker were on patrol on the city's south side when they initiated what officials described as an investigatory stop. According to police, the officers had spotted a man they believed might be carrying a weapon. When the man noticed the officers, he immediately ran, triggering a foot pursuit. Officer Rivera took off after him right away, with Officer Baker following closely behind. The chase moved quickly off the street and into an apartment building, where the suspect ran upstairs. Within seconds, both officers were inside, continuing the pursuit through the stairwell. The situation escalated rapidly as the suspect forced his way into an apartment unit. The officers reached the door almost immediately afterward. Officer Baker moved ahead and kicked the door open, entering first, while Officer Rivera was just behind him in the hallway, not yet fully inside. Inside the apartment, the situation was chaotic and unclear. Reports indicate there were other individuals present, and at least one person appeared to be armed. In that split-second moment, with limited visibility and high tension, Officer Baker turned and fired a single shot. The bullet did not strike the suspect. Instead, it hit Officer Rivera, who was positioned behind him in the hallway and had not yet entered the apartment.
Don't say, because he's... Well, yeah.
Come here.
Hey!
Let me see your hands.
Let me see your fucking hands, bro! Let me see your hands! Squad, my partner's hit. Give me an ambulance now.
Immediately after the shot was fired, Officer Baker radioed that gunfire had occurred and began moving back up the stairwell. Over the radio, he called for backup and medical assistance. At times, he could be heard saying he could not reach his partner while remaining positioned further up in the building. Roughly 2 minutes passed before he returned to where Officer Rivera had fallen. By that time, she was lying on the floor, seriously injured.
Hey, call the police! Call them! Yeah! Squad, roll everybody and roll the SWAT team, SWAT!
Ambulance is rolling. 663 Charlie. Ambulance is rolling. We have an officer Charlie. 663 Charlie. Call that we have here. Are you running behind anybody?
Well, we're on the second floor. Hurry up. Come on, Chris. Hear me. Stay with me.
All right. What's the good location? I heard second floor. What's the good location for the second floor?
Chris. Come on, Chris. Come on, Chris.
I need a good answer.
Come on, Chris.
Stay with me, Crystal. Stay with me. Stay with me. Stay with me, Crystal. Open, hurry! Yeah, Crystal, shot. Get her in the car. Get her in the car. Get her in the car now. Take this. Get her in the car. Get her in the car. Take her to university. Now.
Body camera footage later showed Baker eventually pulling her toward the building's exit as additional officers began arriving at the scene. One detail that has drawn significant attention is what the released footage does not clearly show. There was no clear indication of immediate medical aid being administered in those first critical moments before backup units arrived. That gap has become a major point of discussion as the case continues to be reviewed. The incident has since become the subject of ongoing legal and public scrutiny. Officer Rivera's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, raising serious questions about what happened inside the building and in the moments that followed. The lawsuit alleges that there was a complicated personal history between the two officers and claims that Officer Baker failed to act quickly enough to save her life. Those claims have been strongly denied by Baker's legal team, who maintained that the situation unfolded under extreme pressure and confusion. They argued that his actions must be viewed in the context of a rapidly evolving and dangerous encounter. Attorneys representing Rivera's family have also raised concerns about the video evidence that has been made public. They argue that the footage released so far may not show the full picture and suggest that additional recordings could provide more clarity about what happened. As of now, the investigation remains active. Officials have stated that all aspects of the incident, including the use of force and the response afterward, are still under review. The case continues to generate debate, not only because of the tragic outcome, but also because of the unanswered questions surrounding those critical moments inside the apartment building. What began as a routine attempt to stop a suspect quickly turned into a fatal and deeply contested incident, one that is still being examined from multiple angles as investigators work to determine exactly how everything unfolded. Backyard security camera footage showing an unidentified figure near a tree line has generated significant viewer response since it was shared online. The footage shows a small figure positioned near the tree line. The figure moves in a sideways manner. The camera record does not show strings, shadows, or any visible mechanism that would account for the figure's movement. That is a confirmed observation about what the footage does and does not contain. It is not a conclusion about the footage's authenticity. The absence of visible manipulation mechanisms in footage of this type does not confirm authenticity, since modern practical and digital staging techniques can eliminate strings, shadows, and physical anchors from the final image without leaving visible traces. Viewer response to the footage has produced two competing interpretations. Some viewers have characterized the figure as something otherworldly. A number have specifically described it as a real alien captured on camera. Other viewers are convinced the footage is fabricated, pointing to the figure's movement pattern as evidence of staging rather than genuine capture. Both interpretations are viewer attributions. Neither has been confirmed. The sideways movement is the footage's central unresolved detail. The camera record documents that movement occurring without visible means of production. The question that detail leaves open is precise. One method of manipulation produced movement with that pattern without leaving any visible trace in the frame. And if it's not staged, what does the movement pattern correspond to in any known category of subject? The footage does not answer that question. On a quiet evening at home in Michigan, a man heard a scream. By his account, it was unlike any other sound he had heard during his time living there. He took out his phone and began recording. The recording captured the audio.
What the hell is that? Come on, girls. Let's go. You hear that? I think someone's close. Here, girls. Listen. Let's go. Sounds like it's getting closer. What is that, girls?
When the recording circulated online, viewer responses sorted into 3 distinct categories. Some viewers identify the sound as belonging to a Wendigo, a creature from Algonquian folklore associated with forests across North America. In that tradition, the Wendigo is described as a tall, emaciated entity connected to starvation, isolation, and wilderness. The folkloric record sometimes links its presence to screams or cries said to draw people further into the woods. This is a description of the legend's content, not a claim about the entity's existence. Other viewers suggested the sound resembled a woman in distress, a human cry rather than anything folkloric or animal in origin. A third group pointed to wildlife. Mountain lions, foxes, and certain owl species are documented to produce vocalizations that closely resemble human screams, particularly in nocturnal environments. In forested settings, the acoustic properties of tree cover and distance can further distort animal calls, making identification more difficult and misattribution more common. 3 explanations are in circulation: a creature from indigenous North American folklore, a person in distress, and a known animal species. All 3 are capable of producing a sound that a listener might describe as unlike anything heard before. The recording captures a sound that resembles a human cry. What produced a vocalization with that specific quality in a forested environment at night, while remaining unidentified by the man who heard it, is a question the audio does not resolve. In Chantales, Nicaragua, a region known for cattle ranching, an agricultural economy, and rugged hilly terrain, 8 men were working on the extraction of metal pipes supporting a submersible pump.
Ese es el último ya.
Aquí está otro niño. Ahí sí. Que hay un pedazo, hay un pedazo. Dele. Está largo esa bomba, loco. Le debemos de quitar ese estilo. Es un unión que tiene.
Igual, te la va. Parate duro.
Para allá, mira, Román, no lo golpea. Dale, uno. Dale, que ya me está muy bien.
Parate duro, mano.
No tenías tu email.
Oye,
Está la bomba, está el suco.
Mira la piñata. Cuidado se cae, que la tire.
During the work, one of the metal pipes made contact with an electrical wire. The contact transmitted an electrical current to the workers. Metal pipe handling in proximity to unshielded or unmarked electrical infrastructure creates documented electrocution risk. Conductive materials in contact with live wiring transmit current to anyone within the conduction path. Garcia Minoa died as a result. It was his first day on the job. The other workers were taken to a hospital. They survived. You won't believe what transpires here.
That's her. Yeah. Is it really? Yep, that's her. It looks like her.
Security guard took a picture of her, and he's like looking at her. And in the thing it said the lady's wearing like pink pants.
The Amber Alert, the one I yesterday?
Remember? Yesterday? That one.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Should I block the truck?
Huh?
Should I block them?
Should block. Let me write it down.
It's a Texas plate.
Texas plate, what is it?
Is she a young girl? You can't look it up of what she looks like?
Yes, I can. It's right here.
You got it? Show me a picture, because I know what that girl looks like. She ran right past me.
Okay, hold on.
Oh my God, that's her. Yeah.
Is it really?
Yep, that's her. It looks like her. That's exactly what she looks like.
Moving company crew had stopped at a roadside convenience store in Phoenix for a morning coffee and donut run. A security guard they knew flagged them down. He indicated that a woman and small child inside the store appeared to match the description in an active Amber Alert. The crew pulled up the alert on their phones and confirmed the similarities. They quietly repositioned their moving trucks to block the suspect's vehicle in the parking lot. They held that position until police arrived. Amber Alert notifications distributed to mobile devices have documented cases of enabling civilian identification that contributed directly to recoveries. This incident follows that pattern. The 2-year-old child was recovered unharmed. The woman was taken into custody at the scene. In Harrison Township, Ohio, a driver with outstanding warrants was being pursued by police. The driver was towing a trailer during the chase. During the pursuit, a police car ended up on the trailer. The footage documents this occurring. The source does not establish the mechanism by which it happened. A second police car then performed a pit maneuver. A pit, precision immobilization technique, involves a pursuing vehicle making contact with the rear quarter of the fleeing vehicle to induce a controlled spin and bring it to a stop. In a standard single vehicle pursuit, the technique is designed to stop one vehicle. The maneuver stopped all three simultaneously: the fleeing vehicle, the trailer, and the police car that was on the trailer. The driver had outstanding warrants at the time of the chase. What would you do if you looked out your window and saw what you're about to see here?
Oh my god. He's crashed.
Near Cape Town, a helicopter engaged in wildfire operations had just refilled a 1,000-liter Bambi bucket from the harbor and was returning up the mountain. Flying low with a full bucket, the rotor struck a cliff face. The helicopter fell approximately 100 feet into the flames below. It crashed and immediately caught fire. Aerial firefighting in mountainous terrain requires low-altitude flight near steep rock faces for water delivery, creating proximity conditions that increase collision risk for rotary wing aircraft. The pilot was trapped inside the burning cockpit. Volunteer wildfire services ground crew were already on the mountain fighting the fire. They pulled the pilot free. The pilot survived, and I'm very happy to know that. For an extended period, Indonesia experienced approximately one tornado per year. That historical frequency is the context for what happened this past week. Multiple tornadoes struck several regions of Indonesia within a single week. The event has been described as an extreme phenomenon, though no specific agency or body is named as a source of that characterization. Indonesia's position near the equator makes tornado formation historically infrequent. The Coriolis effect that drives rotational storm systems is weakest at equatorial latitudes, which limits the conditions that typically produce tornadoes in mid-latitude regions. The footage circulating online was captured by people on the ground across the affected areas. In November 2024, Reddit user IndividualInsect722 uploaded footage captured by a Ring camera on his property. The homeowner stated that his house was located in what he described as the middle of nowhere, a property he characterized as having given him unsettling feelings on prior occasions. Before the footage itself can be assessed, the homeowner's account of the property's physical access is the necessary context. According to the homeowner, the house sits on a fenced hill surrounded by dense forest on all sides. There are no nearby neighbors, no public path runs close to the property. He stated that reaching the front porch on foot at night would require either precise knowledge of the route, knowing exactly where to go through the terrain, or a deliberate disregard for the obstacles between the tree line and the structure. The combination of the fencing, the hill, the forest, and the absence of any established established path means that an unannounced arrival at the front of the house on foot in darkness is not a casual or accidental occurrence. By his account, at some point during the night, the Ring camera's motion sensor triggered and the recording began. What the footage shows is this: a young girl is already in frame when the recording starts. She did not appear to approach from the driveway. The homeowner noted this specifically when he reviewed the footage the following morning. There is no vehicle visible anywhere in the frame. The audio captures no sound of approaching footsteps before she appears. She is alone. No adult is present with her. Her pace is slow and consistent. It does not carry the physical markers of urgency. No acceleration, no shortened stride, no postural tension. Her shoulders do not appear tense. She moves along what appears to be the edge of the property at a rate that does not correspond to a child in distress or seeking assistance. She does not approach the door. She does not look toward the doorbell. She does not look toward the camera at any point during the recording. The footage documents no behavioral indicator that she is aware of being recorded. No adjustment of movement, no glance upward, no change in pace. She moves silently from one side of the frame to the other. When she exits the frame, the audio captures no sound of retreating footsteps. No vehicle sound follows her exit. She leaves the frame the same way she entered it, at the same pace, without any visible transition or change in behavior. The homeowner reviewed the footage the following morning. According to his account, the questions that remained with him were the ones the footage does not answer: how she arrived at the property, who she was, and what her presence there at that hour meant. Those questions, by his account, were not resolved by watching the recording. The homeowner stated property context, the fencing, the hill, the forest, the absence of any path, establishes that arriving at the front of the structure on foot at night without prior knowledge of the route presents a specific set of physical obstacles. The footage documents a girl who was already in frame when recording began, with no audible or visible indication of how she arrived at the position the camera captured her in. What accounts for her presence at that location at that hour without any detectable approach on a property the homeowner describes as requiring deliberate navigation to reach is a detail the footage does not resolve. On February 20, 2026, at approximately 5:16 in the morning, Antioch police officers were dispatched to a Food Max grocery store in the 4500 block of Lone Tree Way after a report of an armed robbery in progress. According to the initial call, a vehicle had been used to smash through the front entrance of the store, shattering the glass doors. Investigators say the suspect vehicle reversed directly into the storefront, creating an opening for 3 men to get inside. Once inside, at least one of the suspects was reportedly armed with a firearm and threatened a store employee during the robbery. The situation was unfolding quickly, and officers arrived just minutes after the crash. Roughly 3 minutes after the vehicle forced its way into the building, Antioch officers reached the scene. As they arrived, the suspect driver, later identified as 23-year-old Dominic DeSouza, attempted to flee. During that attempt, he rammed his vehicle into a patrol car that was occupied at the time, escalating the situation even further.
Get out!
We got a vehicle in that store.
Get out!
Officer Donaldson, who was on foot nearby, approached the suspect vehicle and reached inside in an attempt to stop DeSouza. A struggle broke out between the officer and the driver. During that confrontation, Officer Donaldson was partially pulled into the vehicle as DeSouza accelerated. The suspect then drove the car back into the store before speeding forward out of the area. As the vehicle sped away, the 2 other suspects who had been inside the store fled the scene on foot, leaving DeSouza alone in the car with Officer Donaldson, still engaged with him.
Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands! Let me see your hands! Hey! Let me see your hands! Let me see your fucking hands! Hey! Stop the car! Stop the car! Hey!
Despite the danger, Officer Donaldson continued attempting to gain control of the situation from within reach of the moving vehicle. Authorities say D'Souza drove for approximately 2 miles while the officer repeatedly gave commands for him to stop. Throughout the drive, Officer Donaldson tried to de-escalate the situation, urging D'Souza to pull over and end the pursuit safely. According to reports, D'Souza refused to comply. Instead, he repeatedly told the officer to get out and warned that he was going to crash the car. At one point, he allegedly told the officer to jump from the moving vehicle, further highlighting the risk involved.
Stop the car! Stop! Get out the car, bro. Stop the car. Get out. Stop the car. Get out. Stop the car. Get out. Hey! I'm gonna crash. I'm gonna crash. All right, stop the car. Stop the car. I'm gonna crash. Get out the car. All right, stop. Stop. Throw the gun out. Stop. Throw the gun out. I'm gonna crash this motherfucker, bro. Stop the car. Get out the car. Get out the car, bro. Hey. Stop. Stop. I'm gonna crash, bro. Don't. It's not worth it. Hey, it is worth it, bro. I got family, bro. All right, talk to me. No, talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. Talk to me. That's not gonna work, bro. That's not gonna work. Stop. I'll shoot. I will shoot your ass. Stop. I got a family. Just get out, bro. Stop. Just get out the car, bro. Stop. Just get out the car. I will put one in you. Just get out the car, please. Stop. Just get out the car, please. Stop. Just get out the car. Stop. I'm not gonna jump. You need to stop the car for me to get out. Okay, you're not gonna shoot me? Yeah, I'm not gonna shoot you. I would have shot you already. Okay, just get out. Stop. Stop. I'm gonna get out. Just stop. Stop. I'm gonna go like 10 miles an hour. Stop. Stop the car. Stop the car. I'm gonna go down, bro. I don't trust you. Stop the car. I will shoot you. I'm not gonna do this, I promise, bro. Okay, stop then. Stop. You need to stop. Kill us, bro. You're gonna kill us, bro. You need to stop. Hey, stop the car. Stop the car. Don't do it. Stop the... Stop the car. Don't do it.
As D'Souza continued driving recklessly through city streets, Officer Donaldson warned him that he would be forced to use deadly force if he did not stop. Despite those warnings, D'Souza kept going and did not slow down. With the situation becoming increasingly dangerous, Officer Donaldson discharged his service weapon. Shortly afterward, D'Souza lost control of the vehicle and crashed.
Stop the car!
Turn right.
I'm warning you, I will shoot your leg!
I'm about to get out. I'm about to get
Stop!
out. I'm about to get
Stop the car!
I'm about to get out.
Stop the car! Stop the f***ing car! Stop! I will shoot you! I will shoot you! Stop! Z5, shots fired! Z5, one shot fired, subject's bailed out of the car.
After the crash, he exited the car and ran into a nearby residential area. Additional officers arrived quickly and began searching for the suspect. About 10 minutes later, D'Souza was located hiding in bushes within the neighborhood. He had sustained a gunshot wound to the leg, but was still conscious.
Slow down. One command. Just one person get command. Hey, you got it?
You in the bushes! Let me see your f***ing hands right now!
He's not moving. Don't get up there, walk across. Here, all of hands. I'm switching taser. I got him right here. Don't move.
Let me see both your hands right now. You're gonna get tased.
Hey, you're gonna get tased. Let me see your hand. Put your hands out. Like an airplane. All right?
Let's see the other hand.
Yo, hands up. Keep your hands up. Do not move them until I tell you to. Do not move them until I tell you.
Officers took him into custody without further incident. After securing the scene, officers provided medical aid to De Souza until paramedics arrived. He was then transported to a hospital where he was treated for injuries that were not considered life-threatening. Following the incident, the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office filed multiple charges against De Souza. These include kidnapping during the robbery, assault with a deadly weapon on a peace officer, grand theft, and unlawful driving or taking of a vehicle. Officer Donaldson also sustained minor injuries during the struggle but did not require extensive medical treatment. Authorities confirmed that no other members of the public were injured during the incident. What began as an early morning robbery quickly escalated into a dangerous and unpredictable situation involving a vehicle assault, a prolonged struggle, and a pursuit that put both officers and the public at risk before ultimately coming to an end. You might feel the pain of this individual just by watching this clip. Barrage of tiles to the head can't be a pleasant experience. This clip didn't have any context or follow-up I'm aware of, so the severity of the injuries are unknown. Jeffrey had been swimming in the Maca River in Tampa for only a few minutes when something struck him with enough force that he initially believed it was a boat. By pure chance, a drone was flying overhead at the time and captured the incident on camera. The footage shows a violent struggle taking place. The final details are not clearly visible in the recording. What the footage does document is Jeffrey fighting off the animal and swimming toward the riverbank. He survived. Jeffrey later recalled the alligator was approximately 10 feet long. He required 34 stitches in his head as a result of a skull injury and sustained multiple bite marks across his body. Alligators in Florida waterways are a documented risk for swimmers, apex predators that use ambush behavior and are most active during warmer months. I guarantee you won't guess what's about to transpire here.
Udah. Mana? Tak nampak.
Here are some chilling visuals captured in East Bidari, Indonesia. As the waters rose, panic set in among the residents, forcing them to scramble to the rooftops, their only refuge from the relentless flood that engulfed their homes. It's absolutely terrifying. In this video, a person was unwinding in their own space when a sequence of eerie sounds started resonating from a different area of the home. The noises were peculiar, far too intentional to overlook, yet too ambiguous to decipher. With a sense of dread, they reached for their phone and ventured into the darkness, only to discover that the power had mysteriously cut off. In the stillness of the night, every creak and whisper echoed ominously, heightening the tension in the air. As they cautiously survey the surroundings, the camera reveals a haunting visage, a shadowy figure lurking just out of sight, watching and waiting from behind a wall. As soon as they lay eyes on it, terror engulfs them. They don't hesitate to discover what lurks in the shadows and flee in terror. Even now, the mystery remains unsolved, leaving them haunted by the unknown presence they encountered. Yet the echoes of those chilling sounds and that haunting face will linger in their minds forever. On February 16, 2026, at approximately 8:17 p.m., a traffic stop attempt in East Olympia quickly escalated into a vehicle pursuit. K9 Asher and his handler initially attempted to stop the driver on Rich Road after radar indicated the vehicle was traveling 96 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone. Instead of pulling over, the driver refused to comply and sped away, prompting deputies to initiate a pursuit.
10-3 traffic conditions.
Council units, we're going to be on a 10-10 for pursuit for off of Rich Road, sequence 658. Again, off one on a pursuit, 10-10.
You ready to go, Asher? You ready to go, buddy? Yeah, good boy. You ready to roll? You ready to go?
The chase moved through parts of the East Olympia area, with deputies maintaining communication and tracking the vehicle's movements. Eventually, the driver turned into a property known to law enforcement as a location associated with drug activity. Once there, the suspect abandoned the vehicle and attempted to flee on foot.
We're going back to the 80th compound.
Take it! You're gonna get bit! Take it! You're gonna get bit! You're gonna get bit! Asher, take this guy!
K9 Asher was deployed in what officers described as a direct take. The police dog quickly located and apprehended the suspect. Asher maintained control of the individual while deputies moved in to secure him. Backup units arrived moments later to apply handcuffs and ensure the suspect did not have access to any weapons, particularly since his hands were positioned underneath his body during the apprehension.
Take this guy, Asher! Take this guy right here, Asher! Right here, Asher! Take that guy! Take him! Take him! Take him, Asher! Take him, Asher! Yeah, take that guy! Good boy! Good boy, Asher! Take that guy! Put your hands behind your back! You're gonna keep me a bit! Take that guy, Asher! Hands behind your back! Hands behind your back! Good boy, Asher! Good boy! Good boy! Yeah, good boy, Asher! Take that guy! Yeah, good boy!
During the arrest, the suspect inadvertently kicked K9 Asher. The dog briefly re-engaged before being called off once deputies had full control of the situation and the suspect was properly restrained. Authorities later stated that they did not believe the kick was intentional, and as a result, no additional charges related to harming a police canine were filed. Once detained, deputies observed signs that the suspect may have been impaired. A search of the vehicle revealed a significant amount of drug paraphernalia. Investigators obtained a search warrant to seize the items from the car and to collect 2 vials with the suspect's blood for laboratory testing. The suspect was transported to a hospital for medical evaluation and treatment related to the canine apprehension. After being cleared, he was booked into the Thurston County Sheriff's Office jail on charges including attempting to elude law enforcement, driving under the influence, and possession of drug paraphernalia. K9 Asher was not reported to have sustained serious injuries during the incident. The case remains under investigation pending the result of laboratory testing. This happened in China, and what transpires here is downright terrifying. All I gotta say is, that poor worker. Thanks for watching. Stay vigilant, friends.